listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hi there and happy Wednesday. Welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn live here on Business Talk Radio and social media. Our program today is Conversations of Substance. My co-host Alex Kaplan will be joining us momentarily. I am your show host and also the creator and executive producer of this program. I am a certified life and career coach, and I want to welcome to the stage today our guest, Joshua Smith. He is an interior designer and a lifestyle expert. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here today. And you're joining us from where?
I am actually right now in Palm Springs, California.
Woo!
So luckily for me, I can say that it's warmer than it is across the rest of the country. So very fortunate to have electricity and some sunshine today for sure.
Yes, that is so important. There's so many people who are struggling right now. In addition to everything else, now they have to deal with the winter weather and not having any power. It's just water mains breaking. It's just, it's upsetting. So we're grateful for all we do have.
Yes. So it's exciting to spend an hour focusing on positivity and light on your show. So thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. And let's let our audience know that you and I met through a meditation program that is run by The Path and Dina Kaplan and her team.
Yes. I am going through the meditation certification teacher training as we speak, which I am super excited about and have been having this amazing experience meeting another community of like-minded individuals looking to grow and evolve in consciousness. So it's been a delight, and it's such a pleasure meeting you through this as a mentor as well.
Well, thank you. I was really moved by your story, and just a plug for The Path. If anybody's looking to take meditation in terms of becoming certified as a facilitator instructor, I highly recommend the program. I'm actually taking another course that Dina Kaplan and The Path are offering. It's a business course, and they just keep coming up with new content, new speakers, new things to get you excited about. So that being said, Josh, I want to spotlight you and have you share with us a little bit about your story. But before we do that, you're very successful. You're very accomplished. You're changing people's lives by designing their homes, taking a space and making it into something else that maybe was a dream. Maybe they never dreamt of it, and you came up with this incredible architectural design. So can you just start, before we spotlight you, what are you currently doing today?
Sure. I love that question. Thank you so much. And so I basically am a full-time running a full-scale interior design firm. And we specialize in taking homes and spaces and turning them into these dream spaces for clients. I've incorporated mindfulness and meditation and spirituality into my process of creating these homes, because I do believe that a home should be a reflection of who you are and how you want to live. And I think so many times today, people are creating spaces that, was someone else's design or someone's look, or thinking they should pull from a catalog, but somehow the personality is not necessarily captured. And I think this last year, if anything, has taught us that our homes have to be this source of our connection, our inspiration. Now they're places where we work, we're educating our children, we're doing all of these things in this space. And so it's important that as we think about a wellness conversation of body, mind, and spirit, we think about how our environments affect our well-being as well. And so a lot of what I do in terms of my full-scale design business is incorporating that conversation, but I do a lot of teaching and speaking, and I'm also a certified life coach as well, because I think it's important that we really bring the whole person into the design process.
Well, I'm so happy for you for everything that you've accomplished. And part of why we do this show is, you look at you, you're handsome, you're calm, you're successful, you're intelligent, but it wasn't always that way. I mean, you were always handsome and intelligent, all these other things.
No.
But you had a journey, and the fact that you've come here today to share your story, I think is truly amazing. I see that Alex is backstage. We'll give him, as soon as he's ready to join us, he'll let us know. But we do want to hear your backstory about where you were at some point in your life that was not where you are today, and then walk us through those different things that got you to where you are now. How does that sound?
That sounds good. And if I can get a little long-winded. So if you need to interrupt at any time, please feel free to say, okay, we got to move this along, because you're more familiar with the format, of course, of timing and pacing. So
that's great. I'm just going to bring I can't even talk. Sorry. I'm just going to bring Alex onto this stream. Hello, how are you?
Guys, hi Josh. It's nice to see you. I'm sorry.
No worries. It's early on the East Coast.
I had a friend had a baby. And their family's not here. So they called my wife and I last night at 3 a.m. We're like, okay, we're here, we're helping. So I'm so sorry I'm late. Good morning.
That's amazing.
No worries. Good morning.
You popped in just in time because Josh is going to share his backstory. And I just want to let our audience know we love to hear from you. Please put your comments on social media. Please call or text to 609-961-1699, whether you're on Business Talk Radio listening or you're on social media watching. We want your interaction. So that being said, Josh, I'm going to spotlight you. Please take it away.
Okay. So once again, I'm so excited to be here, and really, I do live a life beyond my wildest dreams today. And that wasn't always the case. I was fortunate to grow up in a very loving household. There was no really addiction or alcoholism in my family of any sort. I did grow up Southern Baptist in Texas, in a small country town. And as a little gay boy, that was not necessarily the best place to grow up in the early 80s. This was kind of before the internet, and there was really no way to sort of kind of speak to or to ask questions or to find out what was kind of going on internally. So from a very early age, as I started to be sort of ridiculed and made fun of and bullied, I started to sort of shift and become that chameleon of kind of trying to become who I thought the world wanted me to be, as opposed to who I really was as a person. And as a result, I kind of put on the mask and played the pretend game. And, I did really well in school. I was an overachiever. Everything was going amazingly, swimmingly well, until the internal struggle of who I was and not being authentic started to get the best of me. And in my early 20s, actually in my late teens, I took what I call a detour into darkness. I discovered alcohol. And for the very first time that I drank a sip of alcohol, I felt like I can breathe for the first time. And I loved that feeling, and I chased that feeling. Then early in my 20s, I decided to come out. It was, a big sort of controversy in my family for a time. Being Southern Baptist, it was kind of definitely, frowned upon for sure. But I'll leave that there for another conversation. But what ultimately happened is I chose drugs and alcohol over my family. I chose to numb out. Life got to be where I couldn't function without drugs and alcohol in my system. And I started to not even recognize the person I was becoming. I knew I was capable of great things, but for some reason, this switch had been flipped inside me somehow. And no matter what I tried to do to stop drinking and using, I couldn't. I kept saying, when I would wake up, today is going to be a different day. I'm going to do it differently. I would read a self-help book. I would try different ways to sort of control or manipulate the way that I would go out. It was always going to be just one drink, but it turned into, these 4 or 5 day benders. I wasn't able to keep a job. I totaled 5 cars by the time I was 21 years old. Ultimately, once I lost that last car, I basically had no place to live. I was homeless on the streets or on couch surfing or wherever for a period of time, and it got really dark and it got really scary. And there was this part of me that felt like I don't matter. I'm not good enough. And the more that I drank and used, that I thought it was going to sort of change that feeling, it stopped working for me. And all I was left with was regret, remorse. I had, like I said, had become this like shadow version of myself that I no longer knew. Just to give you even physically, I was 60 pounds lighter than I am now. I was just really basically a bag of bones. And it came down to basically this moment, what I call a moment of grace. I was 27 years old. I was, at this point, I had kind of tried to get sober a few times, but it never really stuck. And I was coming off of this 7-day crazy, debaucherous, pitiful experience of what I said, I would never do again. And ultimately what happened is I had this moment where I was standing in my bathroom and I was, looking around at this filthy place that hadn't been cleaned, probably honestly hadn't brushed my teeth in a few days, looking in this dirty mirror, and I saw myself, and I started to cry. And in that moment, I saw myself not for who I was as this addict and alcoholic, but I saw myself for the first time in a long time for who I thought I could be. And I had this thought that was like, if I'll just stop drinking and using, maybe, just maybe, I can realize that potential that I've always known that I've had within myself. And that was the day that I made the decision to put down drugs and alcohol and just give it a try. Just really give it a try and surrender over to something greater than myself. I'd had friends that had done some 12-step programs, and I've heard other ways of people getting sober. And I just thought, let me get curious. Let me start to really just put it down and start to change not just who I was, but how I was showing up in the world. And a lot of that had to do with surrender and acceptance. And I honestly thought surrender looked like this, like it was like a weakness, it was a bowing down. But what I found out is that surrender was really an opening up. It was an opening up to allow myself to receive all that the universe has in store for each and every one of us when we choose to open up to receive it. And that's been sort of my experience. And I've been sober now for it'll be 16 years by the grace of God come July. And it is nothing short of miraculous how this homeless boy became this creator of homes. And today I live this amazing, beautiful, blissful life that is nothing short of a miracle. I never thought I would be able to go one day without drinking and using, but that desire, that obsession to drink and to use was lifted. There are things that I do on a regular basis to make sure that I don't shift back into that, because I don't take it for granted. I think it's the best, most amazing gift in my life, and I feel like it's got to be treasured and protected. And so I do so through a spiritual program. Through prayer, through meditation, through journaling, through authenticity, through vulnerability. I really dove into the self-help world to start to gain tools to help me stay sober.
Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh. First of all, thank you for sharing. That is such a huge share on so many levels. I found myself here trying not to cry, like thinking of you looking in the mirror and what that moment must have been like. But our audience is going to have to wait. It's going to be a little bit of a cliffhanger because we have to go to commercial break. So I apologize for that, but stay with us. We'll be right back here on Conversations of Substance.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our ministry alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet that the other stations are tuned into.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn presents Conversations of Substance with my co-host, Mr. Alex Kaplan, and our guest, Mr. Josh Smith. That was such a huge share. I wanted to ask you, how do you feel now after telling everyone where you've been?
It feels very humbling, right? To kind of put myself out there in this way, in this format, which I've not necessarily done before, but I know how important story is in terms of healing, and how important sharing our stories are, because what I come to learn is that, if I can do it, you could do it. And if me sharing my story about, how I was able to pivot and turn and go in another direction towards the light, help someone else do the same, then it feels also like an honor to be able to take those experiences that we view as maybe dark or remorseful that turned out to be some of our greatest assets. So in that way, it feels like a gift. So thank you guys for inviting me on today.
It's amazing. Are you kidding me? That was, and you're saying you're long-winded. That was one of the most concisely told life stories of turmoil and struggle and lesson and redemption that I think I've heard yet. That was amazing.
It really was.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
It really was.
Thank you.
You tell your story like that vulnerably often?
I've told it on and off over the years for sure. It's not something that I do on a regular basis, but I feel like when the time comes for me to share something like this, that it's important for me just to get centered before I do. And then I kind of like to think that I'm the faucet, not the water. And then whatever's supposed to flow through flows through. And I just try to get out of the way.
I love that analogy. Don't you?
I was talking to our friend, dear James, yesterday, and he was talking about don't be the rainmaker, be the conduit of the rain, or the custodian of the rain. I was like,
yes,
yes,
that's fabulous.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, your story. I can't tell you how much I identify. So I'm sober. I got I was 27 when I realized I lost my dad at 23, and I was just like, I wanted to numb. Right, I found it, and I've been drinking throughout my life, my not super young, but it's just like once you find it in a way that's just like, oh wait, this is turning off the voices. This is turning off the fears, that anxiety, everything's just quieting, and it's not, the pressure's off. It becomes a tool that you start to use. And that tool is just such a dangerous mechanism that disconnects us, that changes us, that makes us the worst versions of ourselves. And to be so lucky to, at such a young age, recognize this is not who I want to be, and to try and try and try, and not give up, right? It's not about learning how not to fall. It's about learning how to pick yourself up better and better, right? And that's, it's an interesting gift.
It is. And I think I would be remiss to say that, I think it's important to say that it doesn't happen. I didn't do it on my own. You know what I mean? It's like, it really is finding other like-minded individuals who are, I'll put it this way. I heard this analogy one time that says, if I'm standing on a chair and I'm trying to pull you up on the chair with me, chances are you're going to pull me off of that chair. So when I heard that analogy, when I was early on in my journey, it was an indicator that I needed to look for other like-minded individuals that were wanting to do really amazing things in the world, because I wanted to rise up to that level. And if I surrounded myself or put myself in environments, what did it say? If you go to the barbershop, you're going to get a haircut. I had to really be mindful about where I was putting myself and placing myself, especially in those early days, to make sure that there was some space between me and the drink. And I think one of the things that I've come to learn is that I don't have control over my first thought, because our minds do what they do, but I do have control over my second thought when I have learned to cultivate some space between the two. And so my first thought, even sometimes today, I'll see, especially at the holidays, there'll be a beautiful billboard or an ad for something. And I'm like, that looks like that would be nice to have a drink at dinner. And then my second thought is Josh, just don't kid yourself. That's not how you drank. All right. There was never just a glass of wine with dinner. You were a hot mess. And that one drink led to another drink, led to another drink, led to drugs, led to on and on and on and on. But learning how to do that and surrounding myself with people that were able to teach me how to do those things, I think is so important. And the amazing thing about the recovery community, no matter where you find it, is that anyone who's ever been down this road is more than willing to stop what they're doing, to be there for you, to help you, and to let you know that you're not alone, and you never have to feel this way again.
Oh my God, Josh.
Brilliant.
We got to talk all the time.
Right? Can't take it. So Of Substance is built on the notion that addiction is a disease of loneliness and isolation, and the belief that if you can improve someone's sense of belonging, you can improve their mindset. So, like you said, when you were just like, I knew some friends who did 12 steps, and there were just other things out there. We're treatment agnostic. To each their own. It's just about, hey, I'm just gonna try, right? And like you said, and it's not about trying, it's understanding that this is just part of the journey, it's part of the process. And yeah, we don't do it alone. What I learned in going to groups is the power of peer support, the power of group therapy and just community is that when we first start to try to do anything, we don't believe we can do it, right? Until we get really good at doing things and knowing that we are capable. But at first, we really don't believe we can do it. And that's the thing about the room. That's the thing about the community. We're all here to believe in you until you're ready to believe in yourself and give you a safe space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That is exactly what my experience was. And that's one of the things that I heard early on is this sweet woman came up to me one time and she said, honey, because this was of course in Texas, honey, you need to let us love you until you can love yourself. Mm-hmm. And, it sounds a little cliche for me to say now, but at the time it was exactly what I needed to hear. Because I wasn't capable of loving myself, because I had done so much damage and destruction and I had hurt my family. And as we know, many addicts and alcoholics are like tornadoes ripping through the lives of everyone we encounter. Not that we're intentionally, maliciously wanting to do that. It's just that we are powerless and unmanageable and our lives are out of control. And as a result, anything and everything that comes in our path sometimes is affected by that. And so I think to hear that and to know that, like, yeah, you're gonna be able to get there, and we'll be your training wheels, and eventually you'll be able to ride this bike by yourself.
Yeah.
I love all the analogies. Yesterday, I was interviewed by Martha Krejci, and she had this analogy which really resonated with something you just said, Josh, about being pulled up or being pulled down. It's a bucket of crabs, and the crabs are all in there, and as they try to get up, they won't let none of the crabs can get out because they pull each other down from getting up. So I think, and also I like the analogy about the bike and the training wheels, because people can really resonate with analogies, metaphors, etc. So a question, go ahead, Alex.
Oh, but I think that's the thing, is that none of this is unique to addiction, right? These are all life lessons. And that's what Conversations of Substance is about, is that, like, all of these lessons that we learn in our struggles are totally relatable life lessons for all of us to take on.
Absolutely. I want to say hi to Jane George Vile and to Megan Stanwyck. Thanks for watching.
Hi.
Hi. So we're going to take a quick break because I have a question that I want to ask, and I think it might be a little lengthy. I'll tell you what my question is now. So, not knowing addiction personally, but hearing about it, watching it on television, other things, I want to understand what the process is like as you start to come clean, because I think it's got to be a painful, mentally and physically, a very painful process. So could we talk about that when we come back?
It's a blast.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cedrone, artisan jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacalyn over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
My stomach issues make me want to stay home, but that's not an option. No matter how prepared I am, I still feel nervous. Enough is enough.
If this sounds familiar, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation can offer you support and connect you with a specialist.
Don't keep your symptoms to yourself. Get help at spillyourguts.org today.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn presents Conversations of Substance with this guy, Alex Kaplan, and also our special guest, Josh Smith. It's great to have you both here. So how about that question that I posed before we went to the break? What is it really like to start to detox and get clean?
It is a lot of fun. No, you know what? One of the best things that I heard when I went to get sober was that, and I didn't go through a treatment center. I did this without a treatment center. And I think if you can go to a treatment center, great, but it's not a requirement. You can get sober without one. But I was told that I would never have to feel this way again. That I would never have to feel the way that I felt that first day again, if I would just not drink or use today and then take it one day at a time. And it was a painful process, to be honest. I slept a lot in the beginning. I was exhausted. I put my body through the ringer. It was about learning how to live a different way. I had withdrawal symptoms from alcohol in the very beginning, but people told me what to do about that. And one of the key things that I think is so important is to stay busy. I heard early on that our minds are a dangerous neighborhood, never go there alone. And so it was really important for me to surround myself with people and to do things, to start getting into routines, because routines are important in establishing more positive habits. And so the more active that I was in terms of trying to not trying to, actually showing up and doing life differently, it starts to build momentum. It's kind of like laws of physics, like what gets placed in motion stays in motion. And so as I started to move towards the light, I started to experience more of the light. When I focused on the solution started to increase. And then sometimes I would slip back a little bit and I would start to focus on the negatives or the problems or how hard it was. And the more I focused on that stuff, the harder it felt. And so this is where having that support system in place is so important, because it's like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm not going to do this perfectly. It is about making progress. It is about moving towards the light. And Marianne Williamson has an amazing quote that I love. And she says in Return to Love that we don't get to the light raw nerve, and everything I felt overly sensitive. I was emotional. I was probably irrational. I was fidgety. I was uncomfortable in my own skin. And that's why I drank, right? But as time progressed, and I would say probably within the first 90 days or so, I think there's even some science to that. I'm not sure what it is, but like I started to feel a little bit like, oh, maybe I feel okay today. Oh, this is interesting. I don't have a craving to drink, because for the first few weeks, for sure, every morning I woke up, I so desperately wanted to drink, but I had to consciously make the choice that I won't today, and just take it a day at a time. And so I think it can be scary and it can be uncomfortable, but when you lean into people who have experience, when you the most uncomfortable thing was asking for help, to be honest. I think that just came to me. It's like, is to reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling. Can you help me? That was the most uncomfortable, hardest part for me, because I had so wanted to be able to do everything on my own my whole life, to prove a point, to prove my worth. I felt like I had to prove something forever. And what I learned when I got sober, and I think we all have those feelings of like not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough, needing to prove myself. And so it was this sense of like, I don't. I just have to show up and be me. And I'm going to actually find the better version of myself by leaning in and asking for help. And I did do that.
Nice.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I'm wondering, did you have to let go of the people who you were friends with before, or the people you used to drink with? And so that was hard too, right?
It was hard. I think for me, I was at such a low point in my life that people that I thought were true friends that weren't supportive of my decision to pull away from that for a little while, to create some space between me and the drink for a little while, weren't true friends after all. And the ones that were supportive and said, you know what, you were out of control, you were a mess, and we're fully supportive of whatever you need. Those are the people that have stuck around and been in my life. And there have been a few people that have circled back later as they've gotten older and more mature, that come back and have said, wow, that must have been so hard for you at 27 to pull away from everybody and everything that you knew to pursue this other path of a life of well-being. And, at the time, it didn't necessarily feel like this really courageous thing. It really felt like it was survival. It was either do this, or the consequences were going to just keep getting worse and worse and worse. But yeah, I think it's important to change our playgrounds, our playmates, at least for a little while. Like I said, there has to be some space between making it easy for me to pick up, because if I have that vulnerable moment, especially early on before I really strengthened my musculature, my spiritual muscles, right, there's chances are that I might lean in that vulnerable moment and take a drink. And so, at the time, I didn't have alcohol in my house. I did all these things to make sure that there was space between me and these drinks. And I think that was a huge part of the success in the beginning, as we're getting and growing stronger and stronger, because what we're ultimately trying to do is create a new normal for ourselves, right? And as it becomes a new normal, it does get to be easier. And I have to say, people say to me now, they're like, isn't it hard sometimes? And the truth is, it's not that hard anymore. I never thought the hardest thing for me, especially being in Texas, was like going to have Tex-Mex without a margarita, right? Like chips and salsa with no margarita, just didn't even make sense. I couldn't even fathom it. And now I can have a limeade with my chips and salsa, and it's perfection. And I don't even miss it. So yeah.
I think you nailed that. That moment of asking for help is the hardest thing, right? And I think that what's her name? I'd always do this. Jacalyn's always going to punch me in the face because I'm always losing names. But Brene Brown talks about shame being the fear of disconnection, right? And so like that's the thing, we all have shame, but it's actually in being vulnerable and discussing our shame that allows us to release it a bit and just like own it, so that we lose it, we diffuse it, we deflate it, which allows us, which is the hardest thing, to admit our fears, to admit the things that make us feel disconnected are so tricky. And so for me, I had to get off cocaine. I spent 2 years getting off cocaine. But what I did was I would go to my Tuesday night group, I'd leave, I'd get a bag, and I'd keep doing that for weeks, months, but I just kept coming back every Tuesday, and I just kept listening, and I kept saying stuff that was wrong, right? And I was in that place, but I just kept coming back until something clicked. And over 2 years, I got off of that. And after 2 years, I'm off the cocaine, but I'm still drinking, and I'm realizing I'm drinking like I was using cocaine. And I recognized that the first thing I needed to do was admit it. Like, I just needed to go to my group and be like, I need to admit this shame. I need to get this out of the shadow. I need to, and you know what? That wasn't that hard, because I'd done it already, because I knew how powerful it could be, because I knew that it wasn't that big of a deal. It's just, it comes down to, you were saying you didn't go to a treatment program. Neither did I. I got really lucky. I didn't go to a treatment program. I don't think that it's about where you go or how you do it. I think it's about that moment for you, where it's just like, it's a combination of desire and decision, right? Like decision to being committed, right? And that looks different. It takes time to learning what it means to be committed enough to really make this happen. So like, I think your journey, like mine, like most of ours, they don't start the day we actually have that click, right? They start, you tried to get sober a bunch of times, but you don't really talk about that. For me, I was in group. I was trying for 4 years to get sober, and that was part of my journey. But that's part of the learning process, as we understand for ourselves what it means to make a decision, be committed, and what it takes, right? I can't tell you how much I admire you.
Absolutely. No, you nailed that perfectly. And I think it's so important. I got sober the first time at 23, and it didn't stick because I thought I was too young. I thought, as soon as I learned a few tools, and now that I kind of put my life back together to some extent, and I wasn't on the street, surely I'm not going to mess that up. Right. But sure enough, the first week it was like a glass of wine with dinner, and I came home and I'm like, oh, I did it. I only had one glass of wine with dinner. I'm fine. I'm not an alcoholic, right? No problem. Next week, I went out and had a couple of glasses of wine. I remember even calling my mom, good news. I'm not an alcoholic. I can handle this. I can manage it. The next week, I went out, I had a couple of glasses of wine. We went to a bar. I had a few shots. I had some martinis. I went to the bathroom. Someone gave me a bump. Next thing you know, I'm coming home 4 days later with bubble gum stuck in my hair and thinking, like, how did this happen? Like, how did I get back here? I just was going out for one drink. And it's those things that started to teach me, that started to show me that, like, oh, alcohol is the problem. Oh, here it is again, alcohol is the problem. And so it does, you're right. It takes a series of those things to get to that point where you do get that moment of grace, right? And it does, I love what you said, it's desire and it's decision. And then the next day you wake up and it's recommitting to that desire and that decision. And then the next day you wake up, it's recommitting to that desire and that decision. And sometimes when you feel like maybe the desire is leaving or it's getting too hard, this is why it's so important. And I think this is where, social media for good. I know social media sometimes gets a bad rap, or like the internet or whatever, but like, thank God there are places people can go now to find support and to get support. And it's there if you need it. It's there if you want it. You can find it, and you can find something that works for you. I think, it doesn't have to be about dogma or doctrine or any particular type of thing. But there are so many different paths out there, and it doesn't matter which path you find. It's just find one, try it. And if you need to pivot along the way, pivot. You're going to grow, you're going to evolve, you're going to change. And as you do, you're going to continue to find and attract the people that are going to continue to be on your journey and inspire you to stay stuck and stay with it and to do it. And I worked with people over the years who, it's amazing to see how transformative just putting down drugs and alcohol can be if it's a problem for you, in terms of having someone actualize their full potential in life. And I've been privileged and witness enough to take people through and be supportive and be there and show up and be active in the community to sort of witness this, not just my own experience, but witness it in the experience of others. And I'm blown away by the power of the human capacity for change when we align ourselves with that highest aspect of who we are.
I love that. I love that. So many wonderful points that you made there. Thank you. Alex, I'm wondering if you want me to share Band-Aids right now, just in talking about how I think people will be surprised how addiction affects so many in so many ways.
Go for it.
So
Absolutely.
do you want to tee it up?
Yeah, sure. So we have a short film. It's just a couple of minutes, and it's a monologue in a support group. If you're just listening, it's good for audio, so I do recommend it. But yeah, I don't want to say too much. Why don't we just go for it? Thanks.
Here we go.
If they ain't got two, then don't bring none at all.
You know what I used to do? I used to wear Band-Aids on my fingers, a couple on each hand. And not the regular kind, the kind your kids wear. Looney Tunes, Disney shit, Dumbo, Tinkerbell. And it's not that I'd cut myself or anything, I wore them so that anytime I'd reach for a drink, they would catch my eye and it would remind me of my little girls. Well, my daughters are not so little anymore. God, anytime they cut their knee or anything, they used to get so pissed at me if they had to use the boring tan Band-Aids. I started buying the kids' ones in bulk. It was, I guess, a type of training in a way. I had to learn how not to drink. I'd see the Band-Aids, I would picture my girls, and I wouldn't take a sip. The Band-Aids, my girls, another day sober. It was classical conditioning, in its simplest form. Except I had to be both Pavlov and the dog. I had no choice. My girls needed me. They needed me. 2 years I wore those Band-Aids every single day. And, do you know how many freaking Band-Aids that is? Till I finally felt comfortable enough to take them off. That was 6.5 years ago. And now every time I see my hands, the Band-Aids, they're already there. And my girls are there reminding me who I do it for. So yeah, like you said, when you see those ads on the sides of buses or wherever they are that say, imagine your life after addiction. I don't know. I realize how they don't get it. There is no life after addiction. You guys know it's always there with you. It never goes away. And the way I describe it to my kids, I say it's kind of like Peter Pan's shadow. It's always trying to trick you, to get you to do things that you shouldn't. Sometimes I still to this day, I have to stop whatever it is I'm doing and just... And that's okay. It's okay to be an addict. I know I'm stronger for it. Forces you to be smarter, to be vigilant, persistent, present. And it's something we'll all have to manage every single day for the rest of our lives. And we can. But no, it never goes away.
Wow.
So powerful.
Thanks.
That was incredible. Incredible.
Thanks. That's what we do.
That's amazing.
Hey, thanks. But it
I'm
really
getting all fired up.
Cool. But that's what it is, It's just like we're changing those neuro pathways, right? And that takes time. It doesn't happen like that, and that's okay, right? This is just part of a longer journey. Life is just this longer journey, and this first thing we all go through is just like anything else. Addiction has a majorly habitual element to it, right? Whether it's biochemical or not, we still just have this habit. So if we need to change that habit, every time I'm feeling bad about myself, I eat, I throw up, I bully, I whatever that is just I need to shift that pattern. So it takes time. It takes falling forward. You were talking about that earlier, and that's the biggest thing I learned in my group is that getting sober life is like football. It's a game of inches. It's not that you're not going to fall. It's about making sure you fall forward and you get that ball as far down the field as possible, and you pick yourself up and you go again, right?
Yes. Love that. Love that analogy.
What really struck me about this from when I watched it initially to now is not only there are people in all different walks of life, right? But it looks as though there are people in different stages of detoxing or coming clean. I don't know what the exact terminology is. Was that part of what you wanted to convey there, Alex?
Absolutely. I think it doesn't, diversity is not as simple as, it's not just surface deep, right? It's about where we are on that path, where we are on that journey, and everybody's somewhere else. And it's for those of you just listening, it's a single shot film, and the camera is in the center, and it spins around while one man talks, and it shows the rest of the people in the circle of the group, showing a vast array of people from different places and different walks of life, clearly more put together than others. And yeah, so yeah, that is something. I mean, we're always looking at, it's about seeing ourselves in those we don't usually recognize ourselves in.
And that I wanted to run the credits because it's so well done. And the fact that this is what Of Substance is about, I think it's important to get it out there so that people know. So for people listening on the radio, can you just share, Alex, what Of Substance is in case they missed it in the beginning?
Thanks. Yeah. So Of Substance is an innovative nonprofit working to overcome the blame, shame, and stigma surrounding addiction through premium, entertaining short films. So we're turning immersive cinema, movies you really like watching, bite-sized romantic comedies to thrillers and everything in between, into an approachable tool for behavioral change, to go into treatment, into education. We're trying to make it approachable and fun, and just movies are this powerful tool that we just use for escape and entertainment right now, and we think that if we tweak it, we renegotiate how we make them, how we design them, and how we distribute them, they can become the most efficient, effective, and powerful tool for social impact, personal transformation, and behavioral change. And that's what we're working on. Our films are not about addiction. Addiction just happens to be the circumstance. Our films are about our characters' emotional journeys, and they're universally relatable human experiences regarding shame, the isolation it begets, and the power of connection to be at the root of all healing. So it's for everyone. If you have someone in your life who's struggling, just don't even tell them what it is. Just go to ofsubstance.org. All of our films are there for free. They're a free resource. See one, share it with them. Just say, hey, I just watched this short film. You might like it. Don't tell them what it's about. Or if you're struggling and you need a moment to just feel recognized and like you're not alone and you're not crazy and others get it, go to Of Substance, watch a 4-minute film and feel empowered. Remember that you're worth it. You can do this and you're not nuts.
Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate that. And Josh, so we talked a lot about where you've been. Let's talk about where you are now, okay? Because you are doing amazing things. We touched on it in the beginning, but I'd like to close out the show hearing all the positive change that you're making. I love the fact that you parlayed that you were homeless and now you're involved in changing people's homes. I mean, it's amazing. So talk to us exactly about what you're doing so the people out there listening can understand and reach out to you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing that this homeless boy ended up becoming the creator of homes. I probably have been sober about 3 or 4 years. And in that process, I was coming to learn about who I was and what lit me up and what I was passionate about. And I started to see that there was this power of home and how our homes and our environments can influence how we show up for ourselves and for our loved ones and in our life. And so that led me to sell everything I own. But this was back in Texas. I moved to New York City. I went back to school. I studied interior design. I worked for one of my favorite designers and then launched my own design firm. That's been 7 years ago. And since that time, been named a rising star by House Beautiful magazine, all of the great tangible stuff that we hope to accomplish by society standards has happened for me. But more importantly, what has happened for me and what I would want to convey is that who I am on the inside and how I've changed as a person and how I show up in the world is this place of coming from a place of service, a spirit of service in everything that I do. I always like to think of my mantra as how can I leave the room lighter than I found it? And I start every day sort of with setting that intention. And, I think because I've changed on the inside, that has reflected on the outside. And, I have a business that I love. I get to work with amazing clients all across the country, on the East Coast, the West Coast. I got my life coaching certification. I'm going through meditation teacher certification now because what I hope to do is just empower people to live more blissfully, more beautifully. One of the questions that really altered the trajectory of my life was when I started and I had my very first therapist, and the first session, she looked at me and she said, "What is your bliss?" And I had no idea. I mean, at that time I was like, well, I'm just trying to stop drinking. Don't overwhelm me. But what I really heard in that is that I didn't know who I was and I didn't know what my bliss was. And she said, well, honey, if you don't know what your bliss is, how are you going to live a blissful life? And it was from that place of curiosity. It was from that place of investigation that I started to explore and ask myself questions so that I could figure myself out. And as I figured myself out, it's allowed me to help other people figure themselves out, whether it be through home, whether it be through coaching programs that I've done, whether it be through meditation groups that I've started for people. I just think that life can be beautiful, not just for some people, but for all people. And it's about creating resources and tools, and Of Substance is an amazing tool and resource for people to find their group and to find their solutions to everyday living, because it's not just addicts and alcoholics who are struggling to get through the day these days, right? Like, it's the curveballs keep coming. But there are resources and there are communities and there are ways that we can live more beautiful lives each and every day. And so that's something that I get to do every day. And so I feel very fortunate that my journey has led me to this place of living.
And Josh, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, and what will they find when they get to your website?
So I'm actually in a rebrand of my website as we speak, but you can go to www.joshuasmithinc.com and you can sign up to be notified when the new website, which is going to be very lifestyle oriented, debuts probably mid-March. And there's going to be lots of ways to stay in tune and in touch with what we're doing, different programs that we offer. One of the things that I really focus on in my business, and especially in my communications and in my newsletters, is about living and kind of bringing this connecting home and spirit, because I do believe that our homes are places where we can nourish our spirit, we can inspire our minds, we can enhance our connection to ourselves and to our loved ones and to the divine if you have a practice. And so I talk a lot about creating sacred space at home. I talk a lot about zenning your home with style. I talk a lot about establishing and creating just more meaning and making the mundane more meaningful, because we can all fall into these little habits and traps of kind of going through the motions. But when life is beautiful, it is in those sweet, small, still moments. Like Alex was sharing, he was a little bit late because a friend called and had a baby, and it's like being present for those kind of moments is what's so important. But the crazy part is like, I even still today have to remind myself of what to choose to focus on. Because like I said, if I focus on the problem increases. And if I focus on the solution increases. And so today here at Joshua Smith Inc., we're focused on solution and we're focused on beautiful living. So come follow along on our journey there. You can also find me on Instagram at Joshua Smith Inc. And I've got a great following and do daily posts and inspirations there as well.
Tell us how many followers you have on Instagram. It's a pretty big number.
I think there's about 77,000.
Oh my God, that's amazing! Congrats!
Thank you, thank you.
That is truly amazing. So I just want to conclude: if people want to hire you, not if all the people that they're listening and watching, they want to hire you for your services, they go to joshuasmithinc.com.
Yes, that's correct.
Wonderful. It has been a true pleasure and honor having you on this show, Josh. Thank you so much. And we'll see you backstage in just a minute if you wait for us. I know you have something else you have to run to. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Josh. Sounds good.
Alex, if you would like to share how people can get in touch with you.
Hey, everybody. Please just visit ofsubstance.org. Our contact information, subscribe. We are a nonprofit. All contributions are deeply appreciated. It helps us help others. It goes a long way. And you can email me at alex@ofsubstance.org. I like to meet everyone. Also, we are looking for places to do workshops. We do sponsored workshops as we get out there and we want to get in front of your community, in front of your school, in front of your fraternity and sorority, your business, your company, your support group. We are here. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to meet you, and we'd love to take some time to bring Of Substance to your world. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Alex. It was great having you on the show today, and I'll see you backstage in just a minute.
Thanks, Jacalyn.
And thank you, everyone, for watching. I just want to let you know we have some exciting programs coming up over the next few days and weeks. You can always find more information at drjacalyn.com. We are looking for guests for our shows and also presenters for A Better You. A Better You are lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. You'll have 15 minutes to make a presentation to help our audience be a better version of themselves. If you're interested in that, again, please go to drjacalyn.com. Also, we have our business show today that is at 2 p.m. And then at 4 o'clock, we have A Better You. So we hope that you'll join us for one of those programs. Until then, we'll see you later. That's a wrap.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.